Greetings, comrades. I am Comrade Admiral Andre, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program with both DLC installed. We are of course playing our Breaking Ground career with many mods, and I have to say, comrades, the mod Armageddon has continued. I decided, one of the things that I really want to go for with the mods that I'm using is that it makes the whole campaign a little more interesting, because people have seen the stock career so many times that, what's really different this time. So I thought, okay, let's go back to Restock and also get the Restock Plus. I know that obviously means it makes it a lot more difficult for sharing craft, so obviously I'm going with that in mind. So that's why I'm also adding this disclaimer. That's not really the purpose of this series per se. We're not making detailed recreations, as I've said before. This is just to have a nice experience with the campaign. So with that in mind, I also added a Contracts Plus window. I think this is useful. It gives us more information about the contracts that we already have. And then there's also a new mod. Now I have to think, how do I close this? Okay, that's the Scansat. Whoops, there it is. That is called the CapCom. This gives us access to all of our contract list without actually going into the administration building. So we can review them while we're traveling somewhere, which is of course a really nice feature. So, comrades, I also installed additional contract packs in the mission control building. One of the comrades, Comrade Lee Foster, made the suggestion to look at Strategia. I had a look at that, but I want some further information about that, because it looks like it will replace various other missions, and I'm afraid that it might react badly with various other packs that we have installed already. So let me know what your experience is with that Strategia mod, please, Comrade Lee Foster. And then if it doesn't cause any trouble with the other packs that we have, for example, historical progression and so on, then I certainly will install that as well. But for now, there are a few others. So there's a Coast Guard rescue. Good grief. I don't know how we'll do that, but that sounds quite interesting. Giving aircraft a purpose, build and fly our first airplane, which we have technically done already. Career evolution. This is another kind of evolution like historical progression. So the problem here is now there's our first uncrewed flight and things like that. These might clash a little with each other, so I might have to remove the career evolution or the historical progression. There's the moon exploration, exactly all the things that I've been doing anyway. Flyby, impact, satellite, soft landing, sample return, and a robotic rover. Interesting. Maybe I'll remove the historical progression then. Right, I'll keep that in mind. Okay, comrades, so what's on the agenda for today? First of all, you know the drill, more coffee immediately. Actually, while I'm thinking about this, I might also rename one of our previous satellites. This just struck me yesterday when I was thinking about the whole thing. We do have the Polar Orbit Scanner now, a hockey, and that's Proximo 7, but the Proximo satellites are really only for low Kerbal orbit, and 400 kilometers is high Kerbal orbit. So this one has to be renamed into an EchoSat. So we now have Echo 2 and 3, so Proximo 7 must become Echo 4 then. This is a trivial thing, but why not? Echo 4, just because it's a high Kerbal orbit satellite. Right, then let's just quickly review what we have in space at the moment. Active craft. So Proximo 4 is still doing its thing around the equator, roughly. That was of course our first successful satellite. Pioneer 1, which was our first flyby of the moon, is still there. Pioneer 2 is also still captured here. Also, I think this was this the one to Minmus, or the one that was a follow-up to the moon? I can't exactly remember now. Anyway, then we have Lumina 1, which is doing the scanning there, but this was the old one for the temperature packs. I see we have another one there, but that's probably, oh, it's an impact target. Interesting. Anyway, we'll keep Lumina 1 around if we have more temperature scans to do from low orbit. Then Echo 2 was the Ionic Sat. This is the first one that I named after a KSP YouTuber, namely myself. But since this is again for a commercial launch, I'm going to reclassify this as debris, because this is not really our asset as the space agency. So that's debris. It's still there, but we don't have to see it here. We don't handle the tracking anymore. The same with Goliath Sat 1, so I'll just make that debris. So there goes Scott Manley. He's still there, but we don't see him all the time. Echo 4 Ahaki, that is the one that we just dealt with. That's doing the actual scan of Kerbal. Scansat 1, that is also a commercial one that we did previously, so I can classify this as debris or commercial if we want to rename the categorization there. Then there was Murilo Moreira, and that one is also a commercial satellite. No, this one is actually part of the launch vehicle still, so that one I can classify as debris. And then Probodobodine Sat 1, Shadow Zone, that is of course a commercial satellite, so we classify that as debris as well. So this is basic housekeeping, comrades. Whoops, the sea is coming through here. Let's just go back in. Right, so now we see our space agency's assets. Now Pioneer 1, I don't think we'll use this anymore. This was literally to complete the flyby of the moon, so let's just have a look at that satellite again and have more coffee. Today there's an urgent need for more coffee. Right, so there you can also see I have the Restock mod again installed. I don't know, it's a balance, comrades, but it makes things look a little more interesting, especially if you've seen all the career playthroughs before. So yes, we're not going to use this anymore. It does of course give us the option of sending science data back if there's ever a contract for that, but we do have other satellites that can do that. So I'll rename this as debris. Back to the Space Center, although I could have just switched to the other one from the map. And the other one is of course Pioneer 2. I do think that one was for Minmus, but it was captured by the moon. I think so, and then or flung by the moon into this orbit. And it might actually be captured by the moon at some point. If we just have a look here, it does look like it can intersect there. Might crash into the moon or something. Anyway, let's just fly that and reclassify it as debris. So while we wait, actually there we are, but I saw a very interesting tweet today by Scott Manley. You can certainly check that out on his Twitter. It looks like the new developers of KSP2 flew out a whole group of KSP YouTubers and modders to their studio, and so afterwards, but they couldn't really share that, you know, in video form or demo form or anything with the public. But afterwards, Scott Manley did a live stream where he and the others, such as Shadow Zone, for example, discussed what they had seen of the new KSP2. So it's an unlisted video on YouTube. You can only see it if you go to his Twitter and then follow the link, but I certainly recommend you to do that. Right, so this one we're also not going to use anymore, so this is a junk status now. I like this view here. About 1 million meters. We might put a space station up here eventually. Right, back to the center. Right, we're coming back and I've had some more coffee as well. Now, what are the contracts for today? Oops, let's just have a look here. Tamara Kerman. She's not very courageous, but she's quite bright. Might be interesting. But I think we do have enough staff members for now. Right, so let's have a look at the contracts. We still have a whole host that we need to complete. Number one is to return from the moon. I'm not sure when we'll do that. From orbit of the moon. Position the satellite in stationary orbit of Minmus. We still have to do that. Landing gear in flight. We'll do this whenever we have another airplane, I think. A relay satellite around the moon and the low resolution Scansat around the moon. Those are the other two that I wanted to do last time. So I think let's do those. Let's complete those two. Right, so in that case we might reuse the satellite that we have around Kerbal already. That would now be formerly known as the Proximo 7, Ahaki. And this one is quite easy. We just have to take that part off and just make sure things still look nice with the Restock mod installed. So I might have to just shift things around a little bit. Actually, I can just use the engines like that. This also works. There we are. So there's our new satellite that we'll use for the moon. Now in this case we can possibly change the antennas. We have to put a relay satellite there as well. Now let me just have a look at this contract now. Actually we can do it here. Should be better. Right, so there's the scan of the moon. Relay satellite in orbit around the moon. So the APWAPS has to be below 1.1 million. And it just has to have a relay rating of 5 megameters or 5,000 kilometers, if I'm reading that right. So then I just want to make sure this is not a specified orbit. Can it be any orbit or is there a specific one? Most of the orbit details are intentionally left open, but an inclined and elliptical orbit will give the best uptime. So I don't know, we can't really combine these two satellites then. Alright, I was just checking because maybe we could make our Scansat the relay satellite as well. But that's alright. Now let's just cover this part up here. The engine is still sticking out. Well, first of all I have to just go into the settings actually, because I did turn the music off when I was installing the mods and just checking if they were working. So back to 35%, otherwise it's going to get real boring. And then we can continue there. Right, so now I think we probably need another one of those. We could use one of these, but that's again more space debris. Just thinking if there's another kind of solution here. No, we'll just use this. So it's just one piece of debris there. Then the engines are not clipping either. Oops, but they still are like this. Details, comrades, details. And what's this? The tanks are also clipping because of the Restock mod. Right, I think the rest of it is okay. Now of course we have to replace the antenna though. In this case we can just use the basic ones just to make it slightly different. two of them again, so there's a bit of redundancy again. And now the relay satellite. Now, how do we make this interesting again? This certainly doesn't have to be a very heavy satellite. I mean, I could literally make this thing almost just a fuel tank, but I don't want to do that. I have to keep track of all these parts now. There's the pressurized crew tubes. What about something like this? I have to think for a moment, comrades. Right, well, I was just building this now, deciding, okay, let me just try this, you know, just playing around for a moment before I continue talking to you, comrades. But now I'm thinking also we have to buy some things now, because the Restock Plus mod actually adds a few extra bits and pieces that the normal game does not have. Like, for example, the various thruster blocks that I was speaking about previously. All the different kinds of directions and so on. But they also have different smaller engines and things. I think that might be useful. So let's leave this for now. I won't save it because it will still be there. And we just need to go back to the shops. Let's just go back to the shops. Right, so there's 3 new parts here. A very small solid booster, an inline containment unit, and another solid rocket booster. Now that doesn't have a cost for some reason. I guess we get it for free because that's what we would have started with. Then in the second tier we now have the Valiant liquid fueled engine and the Pug. Those are very primitive liquid fueled engines, but we still pay for them, so we're not getting that for free. Then there's a magnetometer boom. Oh yes, this is another mod I installed. That's the D-Orbital Science or DMagic Orbital Science mod, because it gives us more options again. It's more fun if we have more options. So I'll pay that. There's another decoupler, pay that. There's a submersible oceanography and bathymetry device. I don't know if we'll ever go under the oceans, but I'll pay the $5 million for that. Then there is an orbital telescope, a radial science junior, that was $13 million. There's a radial gyroscope for $3.2 million. There's all the various thruster blocks, $6 million. That's absolutely essential. And a signals intelligence satellite for $10 million. I wonder what kind of things that will be observing. So there's the Ghetto Blaster again. The comrades did tell me it plays music, so I'll definitely pay for that. There's an RPWS radio and plasma wave science instrument, as well as another high gain antenna, so that's $12 million. We'll pay that. An advanced construction. Actually, we have enough science now to get another category, so I'll do that. Here we also have some various fairings, small ones, solar particle collectors. That was almost $20 million. And now we're caught up again. Now what are we going to get next? I think let's get the small engines. This is something I've been wanting for a while. So I'll get this since we do have the science. And then that's $25 million. Right. That should help a lot, actually. So anyway, the idea with this satellite, I don't know if it's a good one or what. It's literally just an experiment. I have this tube here, the structural fuselage with another structural tube. Then there's the piston inside, and it's supposed to raise up the antenna. But we'll see if that looks strange or interesting or whatever the case might be. But now this is good because I can use other kinds of engines as well. So this is empty. This is just for the probe core and of course the batteries. I think maybe we might put a reaction wheel here just to help. A radial gyroscope possibly? No, a small inline reaction wheel, which also has a lot more detail to it given the Restock mod. It now actually looks like what it's supposed to look like. Put that in there and then put this there, and of course just move it back. So the top one will still power with RCS, and then the bottom I will power with one of our small new engines. So of course we have the Terrier, then now we have the Spark as well. Let's see what the Spark looks like. We do have a few options. I think I'll go with the compact one. Seems to look the best right there. Right, so there's our payloads, comrades. I think this will do quite nicely. Now the total mass of this is 1.8 tons, so certainly a lot better. I think we can just open the previous vehicle that we had, Illumina 2 and 3, merge that with this one, and then use the rest exactly the same. Might have to adjust the fairings a little bit. Just to make sure the antennas are not damaged. Right, so now we're right back where we were, comrades, with the engines having the bare option again, so everything will work smoothly down there now. We'll still use these boosters just to give us the edge during liftoff. Now I just have to make sure everything is still working here. That one, separate that, and then we'll go from there. I think this will work, comrades. Luckily we don't have to do too much of a change now using the Restock mod again. What I can do though is maybe just tilt the engines back to normal again, since we don't need the gap there anymore. Right, just a little bit better. Now this is going to be Lumina 3, no wait, open again. Lumina 4 and 5. Now I will not differentiate between low moon orbit and high moon orbit like I do around Kerbal. Otherwise it's going to get too crazy. So this will just be Lumina 4 and 5. And this will be named after Comrade P. Maynard. So welcome, Comrade P. Maynard. This is your mission. And this has two very important payloads for our space center. The one is of course our communications relay satellite, and the other one is our Scansat of the moon. So I think that will do. Is there anything else I would like to change here? Now we'll just save that and go to the launch pad and hope everything works well. And of course more coffee right now. Wait, there's a mistake somewhere. Yes, there's a mistake somewhere. We just have to go back. The astute among you will see the problem. And that is, of course, our second satellite does not have any solar power. It doesn't technically need it because we won't be using it as an active craft. You know, it will be in the background. But still, solar power, absolutely essential. Maybe we can do it 3 by 3. Whoops. There we go. Since this is technically a critical piece of infrastructure, right, that'll do. Save again, override, launch again. At least to give us the little edge there. Now I also want to auto strut things, but we can do that on the launch pad. Right, so let's do that quickly. This should still be auto strutted, but the new parts on the top won't be. Well, heaviest part. Maybe it's alright. Right, comrades, let's launch this thing. I will see you in space if all goes well. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right, comrades, let's get rid of this stage. As usual, it was a struggle to get into orbit, but that stage is a bit underpowered. But nevertheless, here we are with a full new stage here, and I can just get us fully into orbit now. Right, I also noticed there's a very strange slowdown in the frame rate as soon as I separate the fairings, but it only seems to work if there's 4 times symmetry for the fairings, or 4 fairing segments. So maybe I'll go back to 2 in the future. It's very strange. Anyway, right, so let's plan this thing. If I was clever, I would have made a nice trajectory to go over the planet and reach the moon in a polar fashion, like comrade Uncle Mike. His series actually shows how to do that very well. But I'm not that fancy, so we'll approach it in the normal equatorial fashion. Like that, that's perfect. Don't need to worry about it more than that. And I will see you around the moon, comrades. Okay, we are here, comrades. Let's just get into an orbit at this point, and then I will consider what to do from there. Actually, they of course did recommend that we put the relay satellite in an inclined orbit, so it goes with the least interference of the moon itself back to Kerbal. or at least the moon is not blocking it so much. But I'm also thinking, what if we do it in a semi-synchronous fashion? The problem with that is, of course, we'll have long periods of downtime, but also long periods where it works. Of course, we'll have to build up a network here, but that might not be a bad thing. So let me quickly have a look at what the particular information is regarding the orbit that we want. Right, comrades, around the moon, semi-synchronous orbit is 17... Good grief, forgotten already. Right, 1797.33 kilometers. And of course, a semi-synchronous orbit means that it has half the rotational period of the body that it orbits. The reason we have to do this is because it's impossible to do a synchronous orbit around the moon, because a synchronous orbit would fall outside the sphere of influence of the moon. Now, in order to do this, I think we'll separate around this area. Of course, I just want to make a slight change so we are more equatorial, although I don't have to here. I think, no, let's do that. Let's do that. Now, where would be the point? I suppose it would be around here, actually. Right, let me just plan this. Yes, that looks quite good, right there. So I'll make this change just because then I know it's done. It should be easy enough to get the other satellite into a polar orbit, since this is still a very high orbit that we have right now. It's going to be so easy to... good grief, to miss that. But I can still make the burn. We'll see if it's good enough. Okay, close that and just check using the moon's own orbit. That looks pretty good to me. Yes, I think that's pretty much equatorial. Of course, it's difficult to say when it's equatorial if you have nothing else to compare to, but we can use the moon itself, so it looks like it's in line with that. There might be a slight difference here. Yes, that's going to bother me, I think. Let's see if I can make a change. Just making extra work for myself, comrades, but I want to know that our satellite is in a good place. Sounds like it's dying, but anyway, it's going to a good place. Right, that'll do. Let's just forward. But now see, I just go too fast. I have to use the inbuilt warp to next maneuver. Right. Now, don't go too fast. Okay, stop right here. But is this right? Well, pretty much. Okay, I'm not going to fuss about it anymore. So now I need to separate the upper stage there, the upper satellite. So I'm going to do this in line with our orbit so we don't change the inclination anymore. Right, so this will be... Actually, I don't want to lose this yet. Although it's not going to matter. Let's drop it. But first, F5. Drop it. Next one, of course, that engine activates. That's fine. Then we're going to lose that one. Please don't blow up. Right, with quite some force, but that's alright. Now, I just need to shake that off. And there that goes. And... for us now, we need to get into a polar orbit of about, I'll say 100 kilometers. I think it's still, as long as it's below 500 kilometers, it's perfectly fine. So that's in 33 minutes, that's in 5 hours, so it doesn't really matter where we do this. I like how it's telling me that we don't have enough delta V for that. But that's because it has little faith. And it's because it's not taking monopropellant into account. Right, that'll do. That'll do right there. Now we just have to get to where we need to be. Hopefully we have enough fuel for this. Otherwise it's a bust. But if we at least get one mission right, then that will help. Okay, I'll say around here. Now, RCS on, full throttle. We should have enough fuel. Now check the map. Oh yes, more than enough. I think that'll do right there, so we can close this and just go retro so we bring the orbit down. Burn. But now what do I want? Let's say 100. Yes, 100 should be just fine. Right there. Then go to prograde just so we can anticipate that. And then warp to the periapse. Which now lines up nicely with the retrograde. And burn. Just bring this down. We'll keep an eye on everything here. I think we'll just have to warp there again, then lower this, otherwise we're gonna lose the 100 by 100. Come on, back to retro. "100 by 100. There we are, comrades. Another achievement for our space program. Turn the RCS off and deploy the scanner. I think here also we need 75%, so this thing can run in the background very nicely. I'll just make sure it gets sunlight, so even though this doesn't really make sense because the scanner is pointing away from the moon, but anyway. So let's just open up the map here, the small one that shows us the live feed. So it's now starting to map it out, basically. We can also open up the big map. This is, of course, Kerbal again. How do I change this now? Projection. Map type. Celestial body. The moon. There we are. Now, of course, it's feeding itself through there, and now we can start to see some data. Good. Now this can run in the background. So this one is now going to be, if I just go back to the map, so this was obviously 4 and 5, so we'll say this is Lumina 4. Rename. Thank you, P. Maynard. This was a great success so far. Now, naming this after another KSP YouTuber, who can we pick? I think I'm gonna pick J Mac. He doesn't do KSP videos anymore, but he was the one who introduced me to KSP. So there you are, Comrade Kurt J Mac. May you prosper here in your position around the moon. Right, next, let's go back to the relay. which we now have to get into an orbit of 1, 9. Good grief, something is wrong with me today. I'm not all there. I have to check again. Anyway, the plan with this satellite now, it looks almost like a telescope, you know, but it's so easy. We just go right in there, target extension, and voila, the dish emerges. It's already extended, so I don't need to extend the antenna any further. But I don't know, well, there it is, just peeking out. Right, so this has to be in an orbit of, let me go check again, 1797. I'll just have to think of it as the year, 1797.33. That'll be easier. Select to the 90, please. Go and burn. So 1797. Now we get close, so I go back and bring the thrust limiter way down. There we go, that's close enough, 1797.39. Right, comrades, now it's time to go to the other side and then basically repeat this, just so we get as close as possible. So this will be a nice slow orbit. Obviously a synchronous orbit means that it's as slow as the planet in its speed, basically, so relatively it doesn't move in the sky. But in this case it will move, but we'll see it twice a day, in other words. So of course a lunar day is much longer than a day on Kerbal, so when it is overhead we'll have a much longer period of coverage than a low orbit satellite. Right, so this is in 2 minutes. Let's just get a bit closer than that. Now I don't want to change this one too much. See, it's already changing. Oh no! The relay set has no communications. Oh well. We should still be able to complete this. So that's 0.33. Now it's going beyond that, and I can't change. Well, I think we'll just warp around again. Doesn't matter, it's fine. Now, of course, it should be easier. Some notifications. I suppose this is already in a desired orbit. But I want this in a semi-synchronous one. Right. Now see, I want that to become less again. Hold your breath. Keep shifting around. Right, let's wait again, otherwise we're going to drift too far away from that decimal right there. Riveting commentary. Well, right, see, now I need to really focus on this. Now that's rising already again, so actually that's perfect. 1797.33. Perfect. 0.1, but so what? I think let's go around to that side and then bring this one down again. We'll get as close as we possibly can. just moving it is changing the orbit. Right, now that one has gone down a little too much, but this is almost impossible to get it more perfect than that. You see, just rotating changes the orbit. Right, so we settle down on 1797.2. Hey. Right. 1797.33 by 1797.33. Now, can I cook or can I? Right? There we are. So I have placed this now in the requisite orbit. So, who will get the honor of this name? Let's place it in its orientation. And of course now we'll imagine that the dish can track Kerbal or the moon or whatever it needs to track. And I will turn this off because that's critical that it doesn't change now. And it's time to just rename this. Now, who is a YouTuber that we can name this one after? So this is Lumina 5. In KSP, have to think, there's so many, but let's name this after Danny, but now I have to think, what's his full name again? Let me have a look. Right, it's Danny 2462. Have to get that right, you know. I don't approve of killing Kerbals, but we'll still honor Danny 2462 in this manner. Right, so I'll accept that, and that is of course a relay satellite, so this is a vital piece of infrastructure for us. Let me just go back. It is a relay already, fine, that's good. And what do we have left? There's the probe, switch 2. Can I do anything with this? I might be able to deorbit this. Although I'm thinking now there should be more contracts actually that offer us an impactor mission on the moon. Let's just see. So easy, we don't have to go searching now. Satellite in Minmus. Specific orbit of the moon. In this way we also don't need to miss any contracts because we can evaluate so easily. Position Scansat Matt Lown in an adjusted orbit, so there's already a mission like that. Right, anyway, I think we'll leave this here for now. If there's ever a mission to impact something on the moon, then we have it ready right here. I'll just have to say, make sure that you auto hibernate so we don't lose the power. Right, comrades, that'll do for now. I hope you'll have a fantastic day as always, and I will see you again very soon. May your Kerbal adventures prosper forever.